Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Book and Bean podcast. My name is Majesta Dawn, author of Supernatural Supermom, which is released on June 10th. And today we have our very first editor on the podcast, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
Wonderful. Now, since this is the Book and Bean podcast, we've got to talk about what we're drinking and what kind of mug we're drinking it in.
So I have a very specific aesthetic, and it's basically all black everything all the time. So I have my my Ouija board cup. You can't really see inside, but it literally has a whole Ouija board inside. And I think I'm drinking ginger tea because it's like the middle of the afternoon. And if I over caffeinate, then I will never sleep again. So
my witchy soul loves that it's a Ouija board cup. I love that. I've got haunted houses. I actually just got this cup this weekend.
Love that.
At a Hollow Spring event. I spent way too much on it, but it was a small artist. So I'm like, worth it. It's beautiful.
Worth it. Awesome.
Awesome. So, as an author, when you told me you're an editor, I think, what in the world would make you decide to do this, right? For most authors, I feel like that's the most tedious or painful or scary or intimidating process. So tell me a little bit about what made you decide to become an editor.
So my civilian job, my human job, as I call it, I'm a program manager for a mental health facility. So I spend all of my time like going through legal documents and medical documents and all of these different huge manuscripts of paperwork and literally editing the most boring things on the face of the planet. So reading has always kind of been my like escape from the monotony of day-to-day life. And I try and stay away from a lot of like the major trending things, because I feel like by the time I've scrolled aimlessly through TikTok for however many hours, I know exactly like the good, the bad, and the ugly of those books. And I'm just like, okay, thanks for saving me the $40 on the hardback because I no longer want it.
Yes.
So I found myself like, hunting smaller authors, newer authors, more of the independent side. And, I would find a lot of different like minor errors and then some things that were just like, whoa, like, did you even read your manuscript after you got done writing it? Or did we just like plug and play, let's party? So I found myself kind of like reaching out to authors, and not for, not trying to be compensated or anything, but just being like, hey, here's some like major issues that I'm seeing that are probably going to affect the readability and like the reviews of things. And I was just kind of like, here's some notes. So when you go back through, or if you find an editor, if you self-edit, these are the things to kind of look for. And I got a lot of really positive feedback on that. And then I was scrolling through TikTok one day and I came across an author, and she was so upset. And she's literally in tears in this video because she just got torn apart in her Amazon reviews. And she's just like, you guys don't understand like how I'm not doing this to make money. Like I'm not making money off of this. So when you post about a negative review saying that the story was great, but you gave me 1 star, even though you loved the storyline and you loved the development, but you say that my grammar and my punctuation, or like there were syntax errors, you're killing me. And so I posted a video and I was just like, hey, I'll help you if you want help. And, I was just like, this is kind of what I do. And if you're interested, and then, so I posted it, and like, I woke up the next morning and had like 150 requests for DMs, 800 likes, and, however many comments. It was just ridiculous. So I was like, oh, apparently this is a thing. So I just had all of these authors who were like, please. And then, so I was just like, okay, well, I know what editors cost, and it's like for a single, it's not even a line edit. They're basically just running it through a word processor and charging $1,000 a pop. And I'm just like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, I'll let you keep your kidney and your firstborn. So yeah, that's kind of how I fell into it. And so it went from medical documents and legal documents, which I still do for my 9 to 5, but then this is my like lunch break and after work and on the weekends thing is going through copious numbers of manuscripts and finding all the stuff.
It's so true though, when you say that there's so many editors out there that just charge these ridiculous amounts. I mean, I found myself when I first decided to put my book out there and submit it to a publisher, and the
Mhm.
publisher's like, yes, I want to publish your book. And I'm like, this is great. And they're
Right.
like, we're going to edit it. We're going to do all this stuff for you. Don't worry about it. And they'd had my sample, contract was signed. We're ready to go. And they're like, but where's the romance? And I'm like, well, it's a paranormal cozy mystery. Like it's what it's always been. I love romance books, but that's just not what this one is. And
Sure.
they're like, well, you got to have some romance in it or we're canceling your contract. And I'm like, and at this point, I've already told everybody my book's being published. Like I'm excited, and now
Right.
I'm devastated because now I don't have a publisher, and I'd gotten my hopes up. Like this is happening. So
Right.
I'm like, if I can't find another publisher, I'm going to have to figure out how to edit this myself, because it was there. But you're right. Like the readability, the make
Mhm.
or break is it has to be edited. It needs to be a finely edited book. Luckily I found another publisher. She edited it for me, but I started researching
Mhm.
editors, and unfortunately I hadn't found you yet when I was thinking that I may need to self-publish. And
Right.
yeah, I thought I was going to have to sell my kidney on the black market if I wanted to get my book
Yeah.
edited.
Right. Exactly. No, it just becomes this impossible feat, and there's not any, there's not tons of options as far as like, finding somebody who, well, oh my gosh. So I heard a horror story about somebody who was there, they're doing something very similar to what I'm doing, but with a whole bunch of malicious intent. Basically, they were taking all of these indie authors' books and all these manuscripts, changing like names and base level things, and then publishing them herself. And I was just like, oh my God, like that's like your baby,
Yeah.
So I was like, my first thing was, I will sign an NDA for everybody. I will completely save you from any kind of tear that way, and make myself, legally liable for whatever happens to your manuscript, because I can't imagine the devastation of spending so much time and like putting your love and your energy and blood, sweat, and tears, the whole thing, into something, and then to have somebody literally steal it from
It's terrifying. And I know
you.
like you're in the book talk world. That's how we met, was on book talk.
Yeah.
And it seems like more and more, when I first found book talk, discovered that side of
Mhm.
TikTok, it was so positive. And I still feel like it's a super positive, supportive side of TikTok. Like we're out here supporting each other as authors, publishers, editors, just
Right.
book talkers who enjoy books. But now recently it feels like there's been a lot of negativity, like people's books being stolen and put out there and published. And it's like, come on, guys, I expected more out of you, book talk.
Well, but here's the thing. Here, I'm gonna do devil's advocate for just 1 second here, though. I think a lot of where the negative side of book talk is coming from has been because there's recently, and I mean, totally tell me if you're seeing a different angle on it, but there's been a handful of books that have been released that are like super trigger happy, like the longest list of triggers you've ever seen. And my issue with that is I'm all about like, make it dark. Let's get weird. Like, cool, that's totally fine. However, if it is not researched, if you do not understand the trigger points that you are hitting and you are not representing those accurately, that's where you have a problem. So I think it's less of the fact that I definitely think that there is negativity that's happening, but
Mhm.
I think that a lot of it is warranted because there's not the backing of, this is why I put these triggers in, and this is what this is supposed to look. As somebody who works in a mental health environment, if you don't know what you're talking about,
Don't write
and if you
about it.
haven't don't write about it. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
Yes.
Because if anybody has experienced that, or is experiencing that, or knows somebody who's gone through something like that, you are insulting an entire niche population who's now going to go and post about it and tell everybody how awful your entire book was. And the problem with that is they're not going to say why it's bad. They're just
Yes.
going to say how disgusted they were by it. And now all of a
Yes.
sudden you've just got all this negative press, all because you just failed to do the research.
Yes, actually, just last week I interviewed Emmylou Hayes. She's a wonderful
Mhm,
author, and she writes spicy, spicy books, right? And so she
mhm.
decided to bring some BDSM into it, but she said,
Yeah,
I can't do this unless I research it. She went to the club,
absolutely.
she took the classes, she got into the community, interviewed
Good.
people, because you're right. If you're going to insult someone, you're going to I mean, the whole point of books is escapism. You're going to snap them right back into
Absolutely.
reality if they realize that this is like, this person has no idea what they're talking about, right?
Right.
And I think that authors probably have some of the craziest Google histories. I know that I've Googled a ton of witchy things to
I've
research
told
my books.
Oh my God. I told my best friend, I was like, the first thing that you do if I ever die tragically is you come to my house. She lives in Arizona. And I'm just like, you fly to Washington and you clear every single search history because it's about to get weird for people.
Yes, you can't help but have a weird search history when you do what we do, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's like just burn half of my like research books because they're all just terrifying, weird things.
Too funny. Now, tell me, have you ever had any desire to write yourself? Or you're like, no, I want to stay in the reading and I want to stay in the editing? Or do you write yourself
No,
also?
I'm perfectly happy on my side of the table, right where I am. No, what you guys do is incredible, but I just do not have the brain capacity um, to to float on that level of magic. So I will just enjoy what is brought to me.
We feel very much the same way. I am speaking for a lot of authors. I think when I say we feel very much the same way about you, we feel like editing is magic and is daunting task. Although I will tell you, one of the biggest things when my publisher went through and she was editing my book, she's like, um, there's one space after a period, not two. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All the little nuances and all the little tiny details of things. It is funny.
Yes.
Um,
I'm like,
well,
my
and there's
elementary school teacher taught me two spaces after periods.
right. Well, but at least like, oh gosh, um, at least like that was like your one thing. I started, a little mini series of like the things that drive your editors crazy. And one of the major ones is verb tense. So like I literally I must have I think it happens 1 in 3 manuscripts I get. It's past, present, past, present. I'm like, I'm having an existential crisis. I don't know what's happening. Where am I? I'm getting whiplash from the time traveling. I'm like, you guys, I love you, but we have to pick one and we have to stay there. Like
Do you know, I will be
dying.
completely honest. The first little short story I tried to put together, actually, the first piece of Supernatural Supermom. And I'm
Mhm.
like, read this and tell me what you think. Just a couple friends. And they were like, you're tense. You keep changing from she said, she's saying, like, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I know you're right. But that was so hard. I had to consciously, now by the end of the book, I'd gotten used to using the past tense. But that one, I can understand why a lot of writers make that mistake. It's so easy to do because you just want to, like, this is how I speak. So I'm just going to write this way, but it doesn't
Right.
transition the same way to the page.
Well, and I think what happens a lot of the time is we as you're writing things or as any author is writing things, you read the section that you've written and then you move on. Then you read the section that you've written and then you move on. So what I had a handful of my authors do is I was just like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to bypass all verb tense, everything. I want you to go back through. You're going to take a piece of notebook paper and you're just going to put a plus for present tense and a minus for past tense. And I just want you to just go through the entire manuscript and see how many pluses and minuses you end up with. And I had one author, she's like, it was like a week later, and she goes, oh my God, what have I done? She's just like, I am so sorry that I did this to you. She's like, I had no idea that it was this insane. And I'm just like, I know.
And that's one
This
of
is
those things
why.
though. Yeah, it's probably a super amazing book, right? Like but it would
Right.
stop someone from reading it without the magic that you as an editor can bring to the table to make it more readable.
I try. I do. I try. Not every day is perfect. I miss the Oxford comma every once in a while. And so,
I did. I found one little mistake in mine. I was trying to struggle to name a character, and I was going back and forth between Vivian and Victoria, and I'm just going to call it out because people will find it. So it switched Vivian and Victoria throughout the book. I thought I'd replaced all of them with Vivian. I found one Victoria in it once it was published, and I was like, no, my heart.
right, heartbroken instantly.
Yes. So I know you said you had a mini series on things that drive your editors crazy. Is that on TikTok?
It is. Everything
Awesome.
is on the TikTok.
Everything is on the TikTok. Do you have any other major ones that just absolutely positively will make you like want to pull your hair out when you're reading through a manuscript?
Oh, yes. So I am a huge fan of Control F, which is like the control find aspect. So what I do is every time somebody has weird spellings of common names, Control F. If you misspell your own character's name, I can't do it. There's that one. And then I think the really big one that like it makes projects take significantly longer because most people want like a 1 to 2 to 3 week at the maximum turnaround time when you're talking about an editor. One of the biggest ones that makes everything so much harder is if you send me a book formatted manuscript. Because if I'm using, like, let's say you're using Word 2019 and I'm using Word 21, we're going to get two completely, my format is going to redo everything that you did. I mean, I've had things where I'm getting sections of other pages that just will randomly show up at the beginning of a chapter because you formatted it. Just a Word document, double spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman. Just send that baby the way it is, because at the end of the day, I'm tearing that thing apart anyway. You know, yes. I'm going to rework. If you've got significant world building, I'm going to make sure that there's nothing repetitive. If you say the coat was orange, like we're going to talk about more than just it being an orange coat. You know, just showing me, not telling me, stuff like that. If you send me a formatted thing and then I send it back to you, you're going to go, what have you done to my beauty? I was like, well, I fixed it, but in fixing it, I had to break it. So, you know, so it's just one of those things where I'm like, don't do anything fancy. I don't care about all of the graphics that are going to go above your chapter numbers. I don't care. They're beautiful. And I'm really glad that you took all the time to do those things. However,
I'm tearing
I don't
apart.
need them. They are not for me.
Oh my goodness.
Leave your scripty first letter for when you're going to print. I don't want it.
Oh, too funny. Now, your email, and just so people don't freak out when I'm giving Samantha's email away, I'm going to go ahead and mention her email because I'm going to be linking it to this video. If you need Samantha's help, you can reach out to her at her email address.
Absolutely.
Awesome. But your email is Samantha Reads Spicy. So I'm guessing you're down for some spicy books, right?
Yes, please. All about it. All about it. I've got one of my authors who's like, I'll be done with my manuscript for my paranormal reverse harem. I'm like, yes, you will be. Let's go.
Love it. And that's what we've had a few romance and spicy authors on, and I love to read it. I just haven't got to the point where I'm brave enough to write it yet. So maybe one day I'll reach out for your editing help if I ever
there you go.
On that journey.
I'm here.
Well, thank you so much. Please tell everybody where they can find you on TikTok, and I will make sure to post your email address in the description below.
So I made it easy. Everything is Samantha Reads Spicy. So it's samanthareadspicy@gmail.com. It's Samantha Reads Spicy on TikTok. It's right there. So
love it when we keep it simple, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us today, giving us a peek inside what it's like to be an editor.
Of course.
To me, one of the most intimidating parts of the whole process, but we really appreciate you.
No, this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And everybody, stay reading.